Well, dear diarrhea, diary full of shit. Just blame on me, myself, and I. No one else. You know I'm so legit. My two little mouse died, which is for the better. Because I could have bought, a big, aquarium for them. But I'm kind of the mind of, if you're gonna be a pet owner, they ought to have the run of the roost. So basically, a dog or a cat, and that's it. But mice are pretty small creatures. So in that second audio presentation where I had said, about kind of, fooling them, to adopt outside influence, even though it sounds silly, it's the truth. Because I can't set them down, as a macho, manly, burly boy and say, hey, look, I'm your new, mouse papa now. Start squeaking at them, and they don't get to say, you're not my real fucking dad, and this, that, and the other. So the first mouse, that I did that with, it took to it very nice. And the first mouse on this second occasion, recently, took to it very well. It was very promising. The second one, not so much. And I don't know if it was once I got the both of them in the same vicinity with each other, they dialed in on each other's instinct, and the negative, quote unquote, fail safe, overruled, that, hey, this could work, because Mama Mouse is dead now. I don't know what actually happened, but they did not take to it, and they died, which is probably for the better, because like I said, mice are cute, but they cause problems. They poop and pee all over the place. They have a tendency to get into all these nooks and crannies. They can get into your food supply. It's just a bad fucking shit. The only reason I took to it the first time is because I didn't have the heart to step on it the moment I discovered it, a little baby mouse. And like I said, in this scenario, it still, had sibling, it's like the scenario was a little bit more complicated, for lack of a better word. So, that's that. So on the one hand, it's kind of I'm bummed out, but on the other hand, I'm not. So Katie Boo still hasn't posted any videos. I keep expecting one, day after day in a selfish manner, like a parent who told their child to check in with them at 9 o'clock and it's 9:30 and they expect the worst. But I don't know that I'll ever get that video or any of her fans, because she's got a lot of fans who care about her. And she didn't leave no notes or nothing. It's not exactly her style. I mean, this is the type of chick who apologizes for having a dog, and then asking her fans what she should do with her dog, as well as there's been several statements, stating, go easy on me. I'm going through a time right now. And it's like, shut the fuck up, you pussy. But at the same time, the poor little lamb, she doesn't have, maybe she encountered some really rough times that were consistent and it pushed her over the edge. And I'm looking at these. I never watch videos of Fatty McFatfuck unless they have Katie Boo M. But her thumbnail seems a little bit less jolly than normal, and same thing with Little Miss Can Eat a Potato Whole sideways. It's like her mouth is just a little bit more flat, and her eyes are a little bit more dull. Now, I don't know if it's the actual shape of the eye or the iris, changing color or whatever, but it's really hard to hide if you're in a bad mood. And I watched a little bit of hers because she recently posted a video that was really pretty good. I don't watch that dentist shit, but I watched like 2 minutes of her recent one, and I zoomed in on her eyes, to see if those were eyes that looked like they had been crying, for 5 to 15 minutes every day, over the last, 3 to 10 days. And it's hard to tell. But the picture just looks sad, and I might have to go ahead and watch the whole thing, just to scratch that itch out of curiosity. Either she did or she didn't. And I hope I'm not, somewhat responsible for that. No, I don't mean in the sense of, fucking, Boeing CEO saving money, on inspection so he can retire as a billionaire as opposed to millionaire. I mean, I had stated in multiple times, I'm just a troll, I don't do that shit. But there was a time or two where I had stated, and the concept I was aware of, that, even though you state that shit, you probably shouldn't still do this shit. Especially because you're offering that fantasy, It's like this guy doesn't exist, but actually he does. He just won't. And then I turn around and, spew that bullshit about the logistics of renting a car, and that may have contributed, to her decision, and whatever else she had going on in her life, assuming she did this shit. And I hope I'm wrong, but it's a very real possibility. But that nobody, there will never be another upload from Katie Boo. And that only leads her fans to suspect the worst, because she wasn't the type of person who would do that. ASMR was her life. That was her, like, a big anchor, a big positive in her life. And to all of a sudden abandon it with no explanation, hey guys, I'm just taking a break, that leads to very bad assumptions. And on the one hand, there's the selfish aspect of it, it's like, fuck you. And then there's this sympathetic, the poor little lamb, she didn't have the mental fortitude to make it. Whatever her deal is, fucking, it could be all kinds of shit. I think mostly what it was approval. She just needed to know that she wasn't doing shit wrong. And she probably, holy Christ. Well, if she really went through with that, that's fucking tragic, bro. That she never got that. She never got the reassurance that she was never doing anything wrong. So and who fucking would know, dude? Some fucking chub, Like I said, the Band-Aid versus the cure. Fucking thing keeps falling off the fucking... So I don't know. Maybe I need to get the hell over myself. That's just, like I said, like the parent who never receives the call. Check in with me at 9 o'clock. It's 9:30. They're like, you fucking, you know, they're picturing the worst, and they're also picturing, how they're gonna fucking, you motherfucker, you better have a goddamn good excuse. So, and this is just some, this chick, right? I don't know her from nothing. But if that's truly what happened, this broad, who ASMR was alive, so much to the point where she sincerely apologized for mispleasing her fans. Whatever happens, she decided to pull, it's like, fuck, on the one hand, it's like, fuck you. But on the other hand, it's like, shit, man. So, anyway. I know it sounds stupid, that I just got all emotional over some shit fucking nobody that I don't know where the fucking shit. Now there's the whole, secret fan shit, right? But I'm not gonna say, I can still talk shit about Fatty McFat fuck, and her fat fucking face, all that shit, and Little Miss can eat a potato sideways, this, that, and the other. Oh, her ass is too fat, this, that, and the other. But they're still kicking, So, God, I don't think she has the mental fortitude, to be able to pull that stunt where she could just disappear and not tell nobody. I think her ASMR account was too important. It was such a big part of her life, of that approval. And hey, you're cool. We like you. We love you. This, that, and the other. And fucking something happened. And, like I said, there's always that possibility, that maybe if, again, get over yourself, you fucking dumbass, but, I presented such a scenario, and she took it, to heart. And then all of a sudden realized one day, like a bomb being dropped, oh, this guy really is just a troll. He talks a superb game. No game that she's ever heard before. And got, I can't help but, take that into consideration. So, I guess that's all I got to say. Is, fuck a weak bitch, fuck a weakling. But at the same time, you do have to, feel sorry for a poor little lamb. And it's a shit deal.